of solving gang violence, at least the kind of violence that we're seeing plague areas of the Western Cape and Johannesburg, but we know that it is not confined to these areas nationally. Let's speak to the city of Joburg. We've been speaking to Darlene James, who is from El Dorado Park. She's an activist from that area, and Nadia de Gras, who's from the Bontehevel area in the Western Cape. But MMC, perhaps you may be limited in terms of the extent you can speak about matters in the Western Cape, but certainly for where Johannesburg is concerned, how do you explain, especially to activists like Darlene, who've been working on this for 5 years at the very least, and at least through official channels, that the situation in their suburbs or their areas has not changed?
Good evening, Kathy, and I think also a good evening to Nadia in Cape Town, and good evening, Darlene. I think if I could just take the opportunity to say congratulations. I was really touched when I heard about the progress that your son has been making. Kathy, it is correct, from what Nadia said, it's not a Cape Town problem, it's not a Johannesburg problem, but in fact this is a national problem. We've seen for many, many years that the drug issue has been left unattended, by a willing government. And the result and the consequences that we see nowadays, drug peddling just about on every street corner in many of the townships and informal townships. A lot of our youth have easy access to drugs. And of course, this is very much a vicious cycle. One of the major concerns for us as the local government is that the loopholes within the criminal justice system. You'll see, be it, JMPD K9 unit, or SAPS going out making arrest. When the suspects gets taken in for prosecution, they are released on bail. The criminal hearings go on for many, many years. And throughout this legal process, these criminal activities and criminals continue with their behavior. So certainly I would like to agree to what the two ladies have said. In fact, there is much more that us as a government need to do.
And MMC son, you bring me to my point, because this is not an issue that you necessarily have the privilege of speaking about as if you're far removed from it, because you're part of those very authorities that residents will come to when they're experiencing these challenges in their communities, and even highlight some of the loopholes that may exist, whether it's with the criminal justice system or even the process of the police officers. So to the extent that you wield some kind of decision-making within the council, what have you personally done to ensure that the concerns of people like Darlene, who I understand you've been in conversation with before, are actually attended to?
Kathy, I hear what you're saying. I need to explain this. It's very important that we understand the roles of different tiers of government. In the city of Johannesburg, we launched in November 2016 the JMPD K9 unit. And as part of our effort to tackle the drug problem, we are ensured that we have specialized units within JMPD to deal with these issues. In fact, the amount of arrest and the quantity of drugs that we've seized from the streets of Johannesburg is much more remarkable than I believe any other metro has ever done. However, it's not a situation where the matter or the problem can be left to the community or just JMPD or SAPS alone. I believe this needs to be a joint effort, not just by the local government, but provincial government, national government needs to get involved and do much more to ensure that, at every corner and at every stage of this process of eradicating the drug crime, that everybody's got their hands on deck, ensure that everybody do their piece to eradicate the drugs and the related crimes from our society.
All right, son, I'm going to give Darlene an opportunity to respond to you in a moment, but I believe that on the line we have Albert Fritz, who is the Western Cape Social Development MEC. And Albert, I believe that you will also be responding to part of the issues that Nadia had raised. So Nadia, I hope that you're listening to part of this conversation, because I'd get a response from you too after the MEC has spoken. MEC, good evening.
Good evening, and good evening to all the viewers.
Yes, you can go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I just want to also, and I really want to say that we, in the Western Cape, really, you know, the problem with substance abuse, specifically the use of drugs, and in certain parts, in other parts, we have real big problems with the use of alcohol, and alcohol where people, for instance, are pregnant while they're pregnant, they drink. But we have this enormous gang problem in the Western Cape. And part of that problem of the gang, that they control the whole drug industry. And so unless you have proper policing and proper law enforcement to eradicate those people who are responsible for poisoning our children, I think we really, as from our side, as Department of Social Development, struggle because we get the end of it. We need to give the child treatment or the person treatment. And you know, our budget was heavily cut in terms of what we can do. And so those are some of the issues that we need to deal with. We have now a very, very, it's a very kind of innovative way, agreed with some companies that now want to come on board with us and start and establish substance abuse centers where our youngsters can go and get treatment quicker. But it's really all of society issue. And I'm so happy that activism, community activism is also taking place.
But MEC, I'm just going to get in there. When somebody in a position of power as yourself speaks about this matter with such a level of helplessness, what then do communities do? Because you are in a position to be lobbying your colleagues, to be speaking even, perhaps to be calling for greater intervention for some of these societal issues to be addressed. So to the extent that you feel that it's a completely helpless situation and that the gangs are controlling the drugs industry, what are you doing about it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Because it's only if our communities get organized, and everyone will remember during the 80s, with the uprisings in the 80s, and specifically in the 80s, how communities took back the streets, how they took back the kind of, away from gangs, away from all those people who are poisoning our children. And then from government side, of course, we will do and we will continue to do and continue to increase the kind of work that we do around substance abuse treatment. But we also need to do more preventative work.
All right.
Children mustn't get to rehabilitation centers. We must stop them from getting there. And therefore, our family program and family development programs are so important. And so we will continue to do the work with the limited finance that we have and really limited resources. But we will continue and will not stop doing that.
All right, I'm going to have to leave it there with you tonight. Nadia, let me get your final thoughts. The MEC says it's up to communities to reorganize themselves. To me, it sounds like you have been organized for quite some time. So what are your reflections on what he's saying tonight?
Thank you, Kathy. Firstly, I want the gentleman that spoke before him says that we as a community need to understand how the different spheres of government works. We're talking local government, national government, and then the gentleman that just spoke now spoke about departments of social development. So our question as a community is, where is the holistic plan? What plan? This gentleman seems to know what the answers are. So why is there not a plan that is being installed in our communities? And with regard to what the gentleman said, with communities getting organized, I feel that government is constantly shifting the goalposts. The Bonteheuwel community has not been sitting back idly. We have, like I said, we've engaged authorities on all levels, whether it be the local SAPs, whether it be the mayoral committee, whether it was Dan Plato, whether it was the police commissioners. We engaged them all with no results whatsoever. We have started initiatives for our youth. We've got youth, we've got a jazz academy, we've got soccer and netball. What more is it that the government and local government is wanting our communities to do? What more? We only have those resources. They don't come to our aid. Elected officials in our area do what they feel they want to do in our areas. They don't consult communities and ask us what it is that is needed in our communities. People are coming from outside into our communities and handing things to us that is not really necessarily a need in the area. But for too long, people has been accepting what government brings to us. The community of Boncheville today made a powerful statement, and Kathy, I want to take this opportunity to thank my community for coming out today in their hundreds for a peaceful protest, regardless of the fact that we were shot at by the police, that shot at our most vulnerable of citizens, our elderly, our children. We had our Down syndrome children in prams, and SAPS shot at us today. So the community of Boncheville has reached a point where we are saying enough is enough already. What more is it that departments or government want the community of Boncheville to do?
All right,
we
Nadia.
don't have the resources, we don't have the money, and
that's where I'm going to have to leave it with you for tonight, Nadia. And I know, Darlene, you're dying in studio to give me your final thoughts, but we've run out of time. I wish we had a bit more time. That's where we're going to have to wrap it up with the show for tonight. News is up next.